Hi and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. You may remember last week's Micro Moment was kind of a tour around our garden, and I was showing you all the zucchini plants along with everything else, and I totally missed this monster. Look at this thing. I have not ever grown a zucchini this big before. I've seen them, pictures of them. I know people who have just not seen them and they get this big. But what do you do with a monster like this? Well, that is what we're going to be figuring out today. I've done a little bit of research on it. I have some ideas. I'm going to be using a recipe that I'm going to create as we go, so it's not printed anywhere. If you want it, you'll need to write it down because I'm not going to print it. I don't know how it's going to turn out, so this is totally experimental. And this goes to self-reliance and food security. There may be times when we have harvests that exceed our expectations, and rather than letting them go to waste and giving them away, we can figure out ways that we can use them for our family. So that's what we are going to do today. So I have washed this baby. It's all ready to go, and we shall proceed. This is about as big a zucchini as I like to harvest. Like many people, I prefer zucchini to be young and tender. The skin is tender, the inside is tender, the seeds are tender. The whole thing can be eaten if that's what we want to do, which a lot of times it is exactly what I want to do. I have, I think, 3, maybe 4 recipes in our new book, which is going to be released within, I'm hoping, 2 weeks, maybe sooner. Where we use zucchini, and I grate the zucchini with one of the recipes. I cut it into chunks, but I leave the skin and the seeds intact. When a zucchini gets this big, of course it changes. The skin gets tougher, the seeds get tougher, and so we have to accommodate for that when we're going to use a great big monster like this. So I am going to slice this in half this way. Let's see, if I slice it in half this way, that means it's going to sit this way. I want it to sit this way, so I want to cut it this way. Okay, so I just had to kind of think through that. And I'm just going to pierce it and work it this way. And I can tell that it is quite tough. All right, got through that stem. Now we're going to go the other way. And we have it. So we have 2 beautiful halves, and the skin is too tough. So if we are going to, the flesh is great, and what we're going to do is scoop out the insides here. And this is a time to save seeds if that's what you want to do. I'm just going to move them right over here, because the seeds are very tough right now. And so we don't want them in what it is we're going to do. So I'm going to scoop this out. And I'm going to scrape. This is a nice spoon for scraping. I want to get down to the actual flesh instead of just the threads and seeds and things. Okay, so there we have it. Now, our decision at this point is, what are we going to do with this half? Now, if we're going to stuff it and bake it, which is exactly what we're going to do in this video, then we want to leave the skin on. The skin is going to hold everything together. And of course, we discarded all of the tough parts. If, on the other hand, we want to use it in soups or stews, it makes great muffins. I have a zucchini muffin mix. I have a zucchini cheese bite. Oh, let me show you that. This is one of the recipes in the book. These are zucchini cheese bites, and you can see those slivers of green. That is the skin on a zucchini that I grated. If I were going to do this with this recipe with this zucchini, I would get rid of the skin because the skin is tough. These little bites were made with a very tender young squash. So we would peel it and seed it the way we have done. This half I am going to cut into chunks and I'm going to freeze dry. But I'm not going to do the freeze drying on this video because we do our freeze drying over on Trail Grazers. So if you would like to see the continuation of what happens to this half, I will put the link to that video at the end of this, and then you can check it out over there. So we're going to set this half aside for right now. We have quite a nice cavity here, and I have some ingredients. I really had no idea how big the cavity was going to be, so I may have overplanned ingredients, but we'll just have to see. It won't hurt if I mound them up a little bit. So this is what I thought would be good. And again, I don't have a recipe. I kind of am cleaning out my refrigerator. So this is a piece of hot Italian sausage, and we're going to brown that. It won't be cooked all the way through. I had a red onion that had seen better days, and so I have it right here. This is some of our freeze-dried bell pepper that I have rehydrated. We'll be using that. This is a half a jar of Classico organic tomato, herbs, and spices spaghetti sauce mix, meat sauce mix, or pasta sauce. That's what it is pasta sauce. And we're going to use that as well. Then this morning I made bread, and thinking that I could probably use some breadcrumbs, I cut 3 slices. This is my oat bread, and so I cut 3 slices and cut them in cubes, and I tossed them with a little bit of olive oil and some oregano. So these are flavored croutons that I am going to run through the blender and turn into some, I'm not going to do them fine, they'll be rough chopped crumbs. So the first thing that I'm going to do is get started with I'm going to set this over here, and we'll get started with cooking the sausage and the onions. This is about 3/4 of a pound of sausage, and I'm just going to say what I'm putting in because, again, I'm not going to write down this recipe. And I have a little bit of olive oil in here. I just re-seasoned this pan, so it should be pretty non-stick. So I'm just going to crumble up the sausage and put it in here. To that, I'm going to add the onions. And the bell peppers. That's about a 1/2 cup of those bell peppers. And we're going to cook this mixture until things are part way done. We're going to let it finish off in the oven. All right, I am going to now do the crumb up these croutons. Well, They got pretty fine, pretty quick. So here are our crumbs. There's a little more than a cup there. And one that didn't get into the blender, so I just might have to eat it. Oh well. This sausage we get locally. It's freshly made. And it's just about fat-free. You look at the bottom of this pan, you can hardly see any liquid at all, no fat, no anything, which is wonderful. So I'm going to add the crumbs and the leftover sauce. Yes, it is still good. This is a little dry, so I'm just going to put a little water in here. And remember, I'm just inventing as I go. That's better, I think. I have a little bit of crushed red pepper left in this one, and then it is done. So it's going in the trash. And we're going to give it a little salt and pepper. I just turned it off. I'm going to use the same sheet pan where the bread croutons were, and now I'm just going to spoon it right into the cavity. Trying not to make a mess. Smells good. And we're going to heap it up. I was expecting a much bigger cavity for sure. Now the zucchini as it bakes will add some juices to this for sure, so I think this is going to be about all it's going to hold. All right, it's very pretty, so I'm going to put it in the oven at 350, and we're going to let it bake for about 30-45 minutes until the squash is completely done. The meat mixture is surely done. And right before it finishes, I'm going to get some mozzarella cheese and sprinkle a lot of cheese over it. So we will bring this back when we are about to take it out of the oven. So we will see you very soon. So here it is. I just barely took it out of the oven, and I piled the meat mixture just a little bit higher and used all of the meat so we wouldn't waste anything. So this has been in the oven for about 45 minutes, and the squash seems to be done. So I'm going to cut it about right here, and we will see. Oh, it's very tender. See what it looks like. The mozzarella is melted on the top. I'm going to cut a slice. I was afraid that might happen when I cut a slice, but we can make it pretty again. So, let's see how it tastes. I'm going to let that cool for just a moment. I'm going to cut the skin off that, and we will see if the squash is tender. It is not drop dead tender, but it is soft. It has great taste. It's a little crunchy, but it is not raw, so it works just fine. Oh, whoa, we have a winner. Oh, that is very, very nice. I'll have to go back and look at the video so I can get the recipe myself, because I just did it off the top of my head. Well, I think that we have a great success with that half. The other half is right here. I've taken the skin off and the seeds out. Now, if you were going to use this raw, you would want to grate it because it's not going to be quite as tender as the young tender ones are. I am going to freeze dry these and use them in soups and stews, and a couple of recipes in our new book would be perfect for this freeze dried. You could also dehydrate it. I imagine that the rehydration would not be as the same thing as it is with freeze drying, but we could certainly try that. In any case, I think we have conquered that monster. You can check over on Trailgrazers. I'll leave the link to the other video where we show the results of this being freeze dried. So thank you for being with us. Thank you so much for your contributions to our community. I think we really are a true learning community, because we always learn so much from each other. So give us your ideas about what to do with monster zucchini. There are lots of, I came across lots of things, but I would really like to hear from some people who have tried other things besides a stuffed zucchini recipe. We will see you very soon for another video.